Hi, little guy. Grandma Suzanne here. I wanted to finish reading you the book because I'm a little more awake now, although my appearance notwithstanding. Um, anyway, it's called Library Lion, and we left off with this lion going to the library and discovering how much he likes it, and the librarian people are kind of becoming comfortable with him being there, and he if you'll remember, he's, I think this picture says it all. He's helping them to clean. Look at him. Look at his posture. Look how he feels. Look how the little kids feel. They're cleaning because he's um he's helping them. I mean, it's kind of cool. So, oh, and then just to back up just one little bit, soon the lion began doing things without being asked. He dusted the encyclopedias. He licked the envelopes. He let small children stand on his back to reach books on the highest shelves. Then he curled up in the story corner to wait for story hour to begin. You're going to go to lots of story hours. And it could be said you've already had a few. Haha. Okay. At first, the people in the library were nervous about the lion. First. But soon they got used to having him around. In fact, he seemed very well suited for the library. His big feet were quiet on the library floor. He made a comfy backrest for the children at story hour, and he never roared in the library any more. What a helpful lion, people said. They patted his soft head as he walked by. How did we ever get along without him? Mr. McBee scowled when he heard that. They had always gotten along fine before. No lions were needed. Lions, he thought, could not understand rules. They did not belong in the library. These people think he does. Look at him. Look at that. He's even bringing them books in a basket. What a nice guy. Librarians are wonderful, by the way. They do things like that. Give you ideas for the best books. I go to the library a lot, as you can see. I get a lot of books, but I was there the other day and I thanked them for these little bundles and told them how much I loved it. And they showed me something I'd never known, that on the website of the library, you can research so many things, not just the obvious things. I mean, for example, your mom, your dad, me, your grandparents, anybody could at their table on their computer through the library website look up and read the newspaper like the New York Times of the day they were born. Just sit there and read it. I mean, you know how hard that used to be when I was younger? You would have to go drive somewhere, you'd have to find the archives, you'd have to look on little microfiche things. I mean, it's powerful. And that was just one of gazillions of things that they have. So, oh man, you were born in a good time. I mean, I know people talk about a lot of stuff that's wacky about now, but there's some stuff that's really good. Like, for example, those abundant little jabs, as the British call it, that you've gotten in your arm to protect you from diseases. Not going to get those diseases because of that day of discomfort and your incredible courage at facing it. I'm so proud of you. Now, back to the lion. Ta-da. Let me just linger on that page just for a second so you can see it. One day, excuse me, pardon me, after he had dusted all the encyclopedias and licked all the envelopes and helped all the small children, the lion padded down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office to see what else there was to do. There was still some time left before story hour. Hello, Lion, said Miss Merriweather. I know something you can do. You can bring a book back into the stacks for me. Let me just get it down from the shelf. Miss Merriweather stepped up onto the step stool. The book was just out of reach. Miss Merriweather stood on her toes. She stretched out her fingers. Almost there, she said. Then Miss Merriweather stretched a little too far. Where is she? Oops, there are her feet. Oops, it appears that she fell. Look how concerned he is. I like this lion. Cat family, just saying. Ouch, said Miss Merriweather softly, but she did not get up. Mr. McBee, she called after a minute. Mr. McBee! But Mr. McBee was at the circulation desk. He could not hear her calling. Lion, said Miss Merriweather, please go and get Mr. McBee. The lion ran down the hall. No running, Miss Merriweather called after him. He put his big front paws When a lion runs for help, it can be frightening to some people who don't understand the language. He put his big front paws up on the circulation desk and looked at Mr. McBee. Go away, lion, said Mr. McBee. I'm busy. The lion whined. He pointed his nose down the hall toward Miss Merriweather's office. Mr. McBee ignored him. Finally, the lion did the only thing he could think of to do. He looked Mr. McBee right in the eye, then he opened his mouth very wide, and he roared the loudest roar he had ever roared in his life. That's probably pretty loud, because his other roars were not exactly, a lion's roar is a lion's roar. But he wants to save this friend of his. Mr. McBee gasped. You're not being quiet, he said to the lion. You're breaking the rules. Mr. McBee walked down the hall as fast as he could. The lion did not follow him. He had broken the rules. He knew what that meant. He hung his head and walked toward the doors. Mr. McBee did not notice. I'm not liking this book right now. Well, I'll stick with it. Miss Merriweather, he called as he walked. Miss Merriweather, the lion broke the rules. The lion broke the rules. Commentary. He goes in and he's looking. He burst into Miss Merriweather's office. She was not in her chair. Miss Merriweather? He asked. Sometimes, said Miss Merriweather from the floor behind her desk, there is a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Now please go call a doctor. I think I've broken my arm. Mr. McBee ran to call the doctor. No running, Miss Merriweather called after him. Well, I'm a little confused about these mixed messages. I do like the drawings, though. I do wish I had a desk like that. Look how deep those drawers are. No commentary. Oh, look, her glasses are on the floor. That's problematic if you need them like I do. Those might be reading glasses, however, which you need just for reading. The next day, things were back to normal. Almost. The next day, did we skip a page? I guess what we can assume is that he got a doctor and she got her arm taken care of. And they don't want to take all the time to say that. I'm doing this very badly. All these digressions. Pardon me. I'm back to the story. Miss Merriweather's left arm was in a cast. The doctor had told her not to work too hard. I will have my lion help me. Oh, I will have my lion to help me, Miss Merriweather thought, but the lion did not come to the library that morning. At 3 o'clock, Miss Merriweather walked over to the story corner. The story lady was just beginning a story for the children. The lion was not there. Not the same without him. Beautiful drawings. This is what libraries look like and feel like. I love libraries. I love the one where you're living too. People in the library kept looking up from their books and computer screens, hoping they would see a familiar furry face. But the lion did not come that day. The lion did not come the next day either, or the day after that. I must say, a library without a lion does seem a little bit lonely now. One evening, Mr. McBee stopped by Mr. Miss Merriweather's office on his way out. "Can I do anything for you before I go, Miss Merriweather?" he asked her. "No, thank you," said Miss Merriweather. It's Mr. McBee in the doorway. First I thought it was a portrait on the wall because of the darkness behind it. Now I can see it better. "No, thank you," said Miss Merriweather. She was looking out the window. Her voice was very quiet, even for the library. Mr. McBee frowned as he walked away. He thought there was probably something he could do for Miss Merriweather, after all. I like these drawings and paintings a lot. One thing that you'll notice when we look at art and art galleries and do art ourselves is how much a few strokes of ink or crayon or pencil or light can convey without doing all the details. And you could see it here. Her arm looks a lot like an arm in her posture and everything. And look how it's created just with a few shadows and smudges. I had an art teacher that taught us how to see light and dark and paint exactly what we saw, draw exactly what we saw by doing this kind of thing, the tones and the shadows. And it was amazing how really clear and sort of representative and evocative things could come out of just doing the darks. We would just do with a pen, and that, like they've done here, you have this whole thing, but you also have a sense of, just from that little bit, what she feels like, what she's thinking, what she looks like, what she is like. It's just fascinating, just from doing the darks, just from doing the darks and the highlights. See, there's very few lines that are drawn. It's just the shading. Beautiful throughout the book, but you may want to know what happens to the lion, so I'll proceed. He's thinking there must be something he can do. Mr. McBee left the library, but he did not go home. He walked around the neighborhood. He looked under cars. He looked behind bushes. He looked in backyards and trash cans and tree houses. Finally, he circled all the way back to the library. The lion was sitting outside, looking through the glass doors in the rain. "Hello, Lion," said Mr. McBee. The lion did not turn around. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there's a new rule at the library. No roaring allowed unless you have a very good reason. Say, if you're trying to help a friend who's been hurt, for example." The lion twitched. He turned around. but Mr. McGee was already walking away. Sorry. The next day, Mr. McBee walked down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office. "What is it, Mr. McBee?" asked Miss Merriweather in her new, sad, quiet voice. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there's a lion in the library." Miss Merriweather jumped up from her chair and ran down the hall. Mr. McBee smiled. "No running," he called after her. Miss Merriweather didn't listen. Sometimes there's a very good reason to break the rules, even in the library. I like this book. I like this book a lot. And guess who just came to be with me and finish it? Little Malcolm boy just came from his jaunt outside in the nighttime when I tried to get him, and he just ran right through the door before I could get to him. That little boy of mine, that little lion, is related to lions. Well, that was a good book, but I've got a little bit over, so I'll finish now. And thank you for sharing that book with me. I like it so much, and I'm going to show you the very last page again because it's just beautiful. And again, look at how much he's conveying with a little bit of color and lights and darks. He didn't paint every book, but you get a feel for every book that's in that library. And he didn't do long details. He didn't even use lines really to show the children and all of that. And the lion is strokes of color, not lines. We're going to do art like that because it's beautiful. And so is the story. And so is just all the joy. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Even a little boy doing a handstand. Well, thank you for sharing this book with me. I love you, little guy. Have a great day. Bye-bye.